You can help win the war by staying home if the trip you plan is not absolutely essential. Any holiday travel will handicap the movement of war materials. Unnecessary travel is tying up the transportation facilities of the nation. Trains are late, equipment is overtaxed to the breaking point, and space needed for urgent war business is frequently taken for civilian pleasure travel. The seat you take in a bus or train belongs to men and women traveling on vital war business, to soldiers and sailors on leave. A government check on the traveling public disclosed that approximately 51% of civilian travel is unnecessary. The reasons given are: 1, taking the children to see their new cousin; 2, to see Niagara Falls; 3, to Miami for the races; 4, class reunion before the big game; 5, just for the ride. And the men who must travel to take a new job in a Western shipyard or sign a contract in Washington are delayed, and the war effort is hindered. Railroad facilities are strained by loads of materials, civilian and military. Gas rationing has increased these loads. Coal, oil, food for civilian and military consumption, materials of war going to the war plants and from the plants to the ships that will carry them to our men, food and guns for all our allies. The movement of troops absorbs most of the passenger equipment and leaves relatively little for the individuals who must travel and for the servicemen on leave. The soldier's or sailor's leave is necessarily short. He wants to spend it at home, not in a frenzied struggle to get there. A missed connection, a late train, and he may not have time to make it. Place at table will be laid, but you won't be able to take it because someone just went for the ride. If your trip is really necessary, take it during the middle of the week when traffic is not strained. But if you're traveling for fun, don't.
Laundries on wheels are now being used by the United States Army. This new unit, designed by the Quartermaster Department, will handle the wash of over 7,000 men a week. It is built to stand up under the toughest field conditions and can work anywhere near water. Once a convenient location behind a troop line is found, the trailer is jacked up. Even on the roughest ground, all parts of the mobile laundry must be exactly level. With the trailer uncoupled, the truck is then moved under the trees, camouflaged and hidden from enemy planes. The trailer is quickly stripped for action. Water is pumped from the stream into the laundry by a portable motor. Here are the customers. Bags filled with last week's dirty clothes. Clothes filled with the dangerous and unavoidable dirt of front line fighting. What comes back may be anyone's, but it'll fit. Just size counts here, no name. Clothes of each size are brought over in separate hampers. Then into the warm, soapy suds, an endless stream of dirty fatigues, pants, blouses, and socks. This modern electric washer does all the work. Thoroughly washed, clothes are put into a moisture extractor where they spin around at great speed, throwing 70% of the water off through centrifugal force. But when they come out, they are still damp, and so they are then tossed around in this much heated tumbler and thoroughly dried and purified. As the clean, dry clothes come out on one side, more soiled clothes go in the other. The wash of 7,500 men a week, an endless procession. Back into the hamper, and it isn't long before the clothes are ready to go back where they came in, checked and packed in clean barracks bags. and after that, into waiting trucks and to the soldiers up front. Yes, the Army has a new washwoman, model 1942.
The Alaskan Highway, a 1,600-mile weapon of war, is dedicated at Soldiers Summit, Yukon Territory, by officials of the United States and Canada. Completed with amazing speed in 7 months and 17 days, this highway is of vast military importance, supplementing sea and air routes from the United States to Alaska. In peacetime, the road will be of equal value in opening up Alaska's rich natural resources to development. Alaska, by its geographic position, is at the crossroads of the world. It can serve as a base from which to strike at Japan and as an outpost for assistance to our ally, Russia. With the Japanese in the Aleutians, it became essential to have a means of maintaining a steady supply of military materials to our troops in Alaska. For the Japanese know what a rich prize Alaska itself would be with its wealth of food and raw materials. This country, known originally as Seward's Folly, was purchased by us from Russia for $7 million in 1867. Since then, it has produced more than $3 billion in wealth. It has modern gold mines. It has coal in open seams, iron ore, oil refineries, a wealth in furs, reindeer for meat and clothing, unending catches of fat salmon, over 20 million acres of timber, and thousands of square miles of possible farmland. The chief problem in opening up the country was transportation. Before the highway was laid out, boats and then planes were the principal methods of travel. With the outbreak of war, troops were rushed north by transport from Seattle up through the dangerous water route. And then, Dutch Harbor. From their Aleutian bases, the Japs flew in and for the first time bombed the continent of America. The fight for Alaska had begun in earnest. At the northern end of existing roads in British Columbia, we started in March of 1942 the stupendous job of driving the highway through. American troops filed into Dawson Creek, last stop on the railway line. Immediately they went to work. Tents were set up and the huge task of clearing the way for the road was begun. Army engineers planned the route. They bypassed muskeg flats that would have swallowed the road in its bogs. More than 200 temporary bridges were thrown across the small rushing stream. 10,000 of our soldiers and 2,000 civilians united to carve this highway out of the wilderness, stringing it out like ribbon, 8 miles of it each day, forging their way through forests, over streams, up and over elevations of 4,200 feet to its destination at Fairbanks. 1,200 of the road's 1,600 miles length are in Canada. Canada's action in granting the United States permission to build the road is proof of the growing realization that it is together we must fight our common enemy. The first difficult cut-through is done, and lines of trucks will roll north. It will give us a military road over which we can transport unlimited troops to the far north. It will give us the means of keeping them constantly supplied with food and munitions so that they in turn may defend Alaska itself and with it the coastline of Canada and the United States. It will give us a well-supplied base from which we can strike back at Japan. And when the war is won, this road will enable us to really develop our great northern territory, Alaska.
"8 days ago, I was with our advanced troops in the jungle, facing the Japs at Kokoda. It's an uncanny sort of warfare. You never see a Jap even though he's only 20 yards away. They're complete masters of camouflage and deception. Don't underestimate the Jap. He's a highly trained soldier, well-disciplined and brave. And although he's had some success up to the present, he's now got against him some of the finest and toughest troops in the world.
600 miles west of the Solomons lies New Guinea, where Americans and Australians have driven the Japs deep into the jungle and upset the entire Jap timetable by recapturing Kokoda. Jungle warfare is a new kind of warfare. It is fought in damp, sapping heat through shoulder-high vegetation that covers the hills and deep gullies. But the United Nations must master jungle tactics if the Japanese are to be torn out of their conquered empire. These are seasoned, rested troops about to start from a forward base only an hour from the front. This is a cat-and-mouse war through the steaming jungle. The Jap's uniform is green, and his hands and face are painted so that he merges into the dense foliage. Always close, but never seen. But our troops have learned a few tricks about camouflage, too. Guns are set up. The mortar barks and one Jap hut is gone. The troops come in closer with Bren guns, machine guns. There goes a Jap. A mortar knocks out another hut. The men close in now to mop up any Japs that may be left. The Japs fled in such haste, they left a great deal of equipment behind them. Souvenirs for the curious troops who overhaul the wreckage of the retreating enemy. Even the strong box with its gold was abandoned in the sudden attack. A major factor in all warfare is supplies, and in the jungle it is an incredibly difficult problem. Planes fly the food and medicine and ammunition in 30 minutes over terrain that takes 6 days for the troops on foot. The pilots of these planes maneuver in and out of the deep wooded valleys to drop their packages. The bush boys are still curious about flying. Only inches to spare over the treetops for this plane. The supplies are gathered up. Some came down under parachutes. Most of it was packed in special boxes so it could be dropped from the plane and withstand the shock of landing. Food was part of the supplies. And most important, guns. Fresh troops are coming up, so the wounded and tired may be sent back. Before they start on the 6-day trek back to their main base, the wounded receive temporary aid. Whatever can be done for them under these primitive conditions. In this group, 400 native carriers are needed to carry 45 stretcher cases. Men who are not too badly wounded walk. Natives have won the respect of all the officers and men by their handling of the wounded. Bringing the stretchers over the slippery, treacherous paths across the rushing streams is a delicate job, but the bearers with their sure footing can do it. Then, rain. Rain that spills down every day at the same hour. A deluge that turns the paths into greasy tracks, that turns the earth into sucking mud to drag at the men's feet. These troops have sweated and fought in the jungle. They've suffered privations, they've seen their friends killed beside them. They're back at the base now to recover their strength. Once they're well rested, they'll be up at the front again.
I've seen the war, and I know what your husbands, your sweethearts and brothers are going through. If only everybody would realize that this country is in peril, that the Japanese are a well-equipped and dangerous enemy, we might forget about the trivial things and go ahead with the job of licking them.
Unfurled to every breeze from the dawn to setting sun. We have fought in every clime and place where we could take a gun. In the snow of far up northern lands and in sunny tropic scenes, you will find us always on the job, the United States Marines.